Hello, my name is Greg Givens. I'm a citizen reporter. I'm using the Looxcie equipment here to do an interview with Barbara. Barbara will be talking about a lot of different stuff, but the main thing that we'll be talking to Barbara about is that the trials and tribulations of trying to get stuff started and beginning with the VA and her husband and all that stuff all between there. So, Barbara.
Yes, Greg.
Without further ado, please tell me, what was it like?
To try to get a husband to get involved? Well, probably a lot of women are like me, that you see the logic every day, but when somebody comes back and they're not physically injured, maimed, they feel that they don't need that service as long as they've held a job or you have a job, which I do, that keeps you covered with insurance. Why do I want to take something away from some other man? And it's hard to convince a guy that is walking around feeling as though everything is right and that he's healthy to sign up and take advantage. But where we live in Riverside, every day that I go to work out in Hemet, which is about 29 miles away each way, I drive past the National Cemetery. And I think to myself almost every day, here we have the opportunity to be buried there and not have a cost for one another, since we've had such a hard last year, the year before, with losing so many things, homes and a couple rental properties, that, you know, get off your duff so we can go in there and find out what it takes to even get your free burial site. Because heaven help, something should happen to you or me, or we're killed on a road, neither one of our kids, my kids, would know what to do, and that it would be a free thing that we should be entitled to. So that was one of the most stressful things in one sense, to know that I'm driving past this every day and that I just couldn't get him interested, because it made him think that, okay, if we're doing this, I must be getting close to death or something, because why is she pushing for this? Well, I know it's not a simple thing usually to get something done.
Oh, nothing is ever simple when it comes to anything in the military or I would believe the VA system. And
well,
due to the fact that you have other vets that are starting to call back home and everything else,
yeah.
It'd be far, far worse if you don't get started on something now.
Now, right.
That it would take longer and longer for it to happen.
Yes.
With that constant reminder of you going past this particular area and everything else, I guess that kind of made you kind of, for lack of a better word, that made you kind of sad or depressed that you didn't know what was going to happen.
What should happen? You know, all the steps to take. I was actually raised near Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was militarily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the biggest group of people except for farmers.
Mm-hmm.
People came and went. So as a kid, you saw that coming and going. But as you got older, you realized that some of these people's lives were just totally disrupted when a wife would be at one place and the husband would be brought home ill, and that suddenly that world ended and you had to move away and try to get help for yourself. So I'm thinking, you know, this is not a simple thing to just say, okay, because you're entitled to it, Dave, you know, what steps do you have to take? And I have a brother-in-law that lives in Kentucky, was in the Air Force, and he and my sister were talking about it one day, and I said, yeah, I've got to get Dave a little bit more interested in doing a few of these things, you know, taking care of this, because they had taken care of theirs. And so I proceeded to say, how long did it take you? Well, it didn't seem to take them as long to get paperwork squared away for their burial plot, let's say, because they have a son that works civil service at Fort Knox recording everything for the higher echelons. He travels the world with them, from Bosnia all over the world. He goes back and forth with whoever's going out to make a major something, or if they have the great big war games, he goes and he's like one of the top recorders. and video photographers for them. So, but he is civil service, so he said, Dad, this is the steps you need to take. So when I learned those steps, I come home and said, Dad, these are the steps you need to take. We'll get to it, we'll get to it. So you go by another 6 months and you think, nothing's going to get done. And then ironically, one day you stopped by my desk at work and said, what's up, Barbara? And you said, well, I didn't know all of this. Let's get started on this. Let me talk to him and see what I can convince him that he needs to get started on, try to get this thing done. So that was the good part. I came home and I said, hey, one of the guys that we've worked with on kitchens and all different kinds of things, it's in the store all the time, came by and he told me he would help us get a lot of these paperwork all squared away. Okay, yeah. So then I said, no, he wants to see you. he wants to meet with you, Dave. There's another thing instead of the, oh yeah, we'll take care of it, you know, like, well, I'm going to die when I'm 110, you know, as opposed to it could be any day with this day and age, it could be any time. You don't know what God has in store for you, so you just do whatever. But I'd rather be prepared in saying that I have it all there and leaving a plot set there for the next 20 or 30 years than not be prepared and need it in 30 days.
So it really was a big push.
A big stress.
I suppose a lot of stress. As you said, you kept reminding him that he had to get this stuff rolling and get started on it.
Yeah.
But he would kind of brush it off and say, I'll get to it tomorrow. But as you were saying, nobody's promised tomorrow.
That's right.
And
nobody has promised anything.
And
the simple fact that we both are at retirement age, that, hey, maybe the other thing was, okay, we've lost all of this income that we thought we could have a very nice life going forward with, because we did have some rental properties. Well, with the economy, you lost them all, because we literally were shorting ourselves with helping out people that we knew were worse off, with not charging them over amounts, and we were eating a lot each month ourselves as far as taking care of these rental properties and covering some of the people that was in it. So you were shortchanging ourselves.
So you were basically you were good landlords, and you were being respected.
Lousy money managers.
But you're a good landlord, but you're good people, because you knew that the economy. They couldn't afford to stay where they were or support that. So you just took that as not as a write-off, but you just, like bird, sucked it up and
sucked it up, and you didn't vacation, you didn't a few other things, thinking, okay, something one of these days will break free. And then you realize, okay, you're now like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years older, and things haven't broke free. So okay, you better regroup here one more time and think, what are you going to do for yourself? And I said, Dave, maybe you're entitled to some retirement. Maybe you're entitled to some benefits from them. Oh, I didn't come back injured. I said, that's not the idea. The idea is it was a wartime thing. And I talked to a gentleman at work, Fred from out in the garden, that said he'd felt the same way until he got cancer. And then his kids said, Dad, you're entitled to something. You need to go put in for this, and you need to start talking to them about what this is, in case it takes a lot longer to fight this prostate cancer than you think it is. So he came back, after he'd been off for quite a while, he came back in, and I said, so how are things doing? And he said to me, surprisingly, remember that long conversation we had, and I told you who you should try to get in contact with about your husband's benefits? He said, yeah, surprise, I found out that I'm entitled to benefits. He said, I always felt as long as I've come back home and I was healthy and I was in one piece, I didn't feel that I ever needed it. Let it go to somebody else that really needed it. So that is a world of people's concept, consciously and unconsciously, because you feel that you've been blessed enough to make it back in one piece, that you don't want to take away from someone that hasn't. And that's